go.
Okay, so you're basically looking at me. You know,
Okay.
he doesn't exist, so we're just talking.
Right.
So, so tell me a little bit of who you are, where we're at, and
Okay.
why you're doing this.
Okay, they call me Gigolo. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I'm one of the New York City heavyweights. I've been in the radio over maybe about 43 years. I do a lot of skip talking. You know, a lot of people know me. I enjoy the hobby, and it's a hobby that's dying. But guys like me, we're trying to keep it alive, keep it happening.
Tell me, how did you get into CB radio? So you can say, like, one day, so you're going to take me back to the day when you were
Let me give you the story. I was about 14 years old, and I bought a walkie-talkie. And I hooked up an antenna out the window on a walkie-talkie. So I was receiving guys for weeks and weeks. I'm hearing guys. So one day I'm playing on the radio, I'm talking, and I say, break, break. And the guy comes back to me, come on, break. I didn't know what to say. I left the radio alone for a whole 2 weeks before I touched it again. So after that, I got into it, you know? And, you know, I started speaking to guys around the neighborhood, and it's like a drug habit. You know, the more you're into it, the more you want, the powerful you want to get, the more things you want to do. So, you know, it's just one of those things, but I've been in it for a lot of years.
So you married, kids, all that stuff?
Yeah, married with 4 beautiful kids. Me and my wife been together for 32 years.
Tell me what your family thinks of your hobby.
They think I'm crazy.
So what you're going to say is, my wife and my kids think I'm crazy.
There it is. My wife, my kids, they think I'm crazy. And when I buy something new, I have to sneak it in the house. I mean, you know, I guess that's part of the part of the game, but that's what happens, you know what I'm saying? But I enjoy the hobby, like I said, it's you know, a long time and to be out here at the Key Down today that we're having, to see all the faces and the guys that, you know, been talking to for years and years, you know, I mean, a lot of guys I've been talking to for 30 years, 40 years, never got to meet them, and finally, you know, we're there, so it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
So Gigolo, did you have any idea that I was a white guy? I'm only messing with you.
This guy's crazy.
All right, so my question is, what is it that you love about CB? What is the most, like, what is, why are you
What turns me on? Being how would you say, being powerful on the radio. It's like having a power. It's like being a Superman. You know what I'm saying? That's what turns me on about the radio. You know, but when somebody comes along with some kryptonite, it's a lot of problems.
Tell me the day that you got an amplifier. You take this amplifier, you hook it up. Take me back to the day that you were like, I cannot believe I had this box. I'm gonna plug it in. I'll put my coax in. Because it's so vivid when you do it. You're like, you're putting the connector in. You're like, and your heart's going.
Right. My first amplifier was a 500 watt foot warmer, and that was back in the 70s. And back then, to own an amplifier with 500 watts, you was like king of the hill. You know what I'm saying? Compared to what these guys are doing out here now. So, I mean, you know, you get the adrenaline rolling, you're talking skip, you know, it's one of those things, you know.
Who's the boss in New York City? So right now the boss in New York City is?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say. You got a lot of good stations out here, a lot of good talking stations. I wouldn't pinpoint nobody. Uh-oh. I wouldn't pinpoint nobody being the boss, because it's got a lot to do with Mother Nature, signal waves, you know. So, I mean, one day you could be the boss. Next day I'm the boss. Next day somebody else is the boss. So it's hard to call it.
Tell me your happiest moment on CB. What was the most happiest moment? Was it meeting a lady? Was it meeting somebody you talked to for years? What was that happiest moment? Like, I cannot believe, I love this hobby.
The happiest moment in my CB career is when I put up my beam antenna, and I was able to talk on the flat side. That was happy for me, because that was something different. And to actually have an antenna that could rotate and point and talk. That was my happiest moment. I felt like I was accomplished something. You know what I'm saying? So
when you connected out that beam, do you remember who you first talked to? Like, who's the biggest station that came back to you and then you said to yourself, man, I am somebody.
I can tell you who I spoke to, and he's not here right now. $5 Radio from Galveston. He was one of the first guys I talked to when I put my beam up, and that was a good trip. And I think I was running about 400 or 500 watts on the flat side. So that was a good moment for me that I could remember.
So let's go to the opposite extreme. The most horrible moment on CB, whether it's a death or it's somebody stole something or there's a huge fight. What was like a low point of CB radio?
That's a good question, because it's been a lot of bad times. You know, sometimes I would think it was when I was speaking to somebody and they got racist with me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it happens. You know, but I think that was one of my worst moments. But other than that, you know, I enjoy the hobby. I don't, you know, it's always to the left, to the left. You know what I'm saying? When you get that moment, you don't want to hear it, you don't want to deal with it, to the left. So I can't really say I had a horrible moment, but that was upsetting to me, because I was surprised that I ran into that on the radio. You know what I'm saying?
I do, but you run into that bullshit in life.
Yeah. But you know, like I said, on that was like one of my moments. You know.
You're like, what?
Yeah. Well, is this coming out of my radio? Yeah. But it is what it is.
So, is there any shout outs that you want to give somebody that helped you along the way? Somebody that was like, no, let me show you what to do here. Is there anybody?
Yeah. It's a couple of shout outs I want to give to a couple of old timers. 700, God bless his soul. He's no longer with us. He was one of the guys that kind of guided me through when I was younger. I like to also give a shout out to my people that's with us today. You know, the New York City heavyweights, Northeast Corner heavyweights, Pitbull, 000s, Big Man. I could go on and on. There's a lot of guys. If I didn't call your name, Skyhawk, everybody. You know, I just want to give a shout out to the boys and to the break we put together today. We really had a good time.
So what was the most thing you enjoyed here at this break? So you want to mention the break. So,
yes.
So we're here at?
Yeah, we're here at Hempstead Lake Park. It's June 8th, and this is the Northeast Corner heavyweight break. This is one of our first break in collaboration with Man of War from Long Island, and it was really good. It was really nice meeting a lot of people, like I said, that you speak to, and just fellowship. It was very nice. We had a very nice time here today.
Okay, another quick question. Mm-hmm. In your mind, how would you describe a mud duck?
A mud duck, to me, is somebody who wants to be somebody on the radio. And my saying is, everybody wants to be somebody. And that's what a mud duck is. Somebody who wants to be somebody on the radio.
Perfect. Any parting words?
Yeah, I just like to say, it's been a pleasure to you. And always hearing you out there, speaking down on the shore is a beautiful thing. And I appreciate everything, from you and what you do.
In 007, I'm gone now.
All right, 00.
Yeah, it's nice meeting you.
All right, pleasure meeting you.